Chosen one. Pay close attention. Your presence in this world is no mere chance. The message reaching you at this exact time is not random luck. That powerful number 555 on the thumbnail caught your eye, didn't it? It's no coincidence that it drew you to click on this video. In biblical numerology and in the language of the Spirit, the number 5 represents God's grace, favor, and supernatural transformation. When it is repeated 4 times by 555, it is heaven shouting an urgent message of major change, overflowing grace, and total life overhaul. It's a sacred sign that God is calling you, chosen one, to awaken to His divine purpose and embrace the rescue mission He has set in motion for you. Perhaps you're at a crossroads, longing for His provision or a sign of His love. These feelings are not random. They are holy signals guiding you to this moment of transformation. Pause and reflect what brought you here today. You're watching because God has sent 2 mighty angels to rescue you, to lift you from your struggles and lead you into His divine plan. The number 555 is a reminder of His perfect presence and His promise to protect and provide for you. I invite you to join a global community of faith by sharing in the comments where you're watching from your city or country, and type the number 5555 to proclaim your trust in God's divine rescue. Let's stand together as His chosen ones, declaring His power and goodness. If this message speaks to your heart, consider giving a super thanks as an act of faith. Know this: what you give today in response to God's call, He will multiply tenfold, pouring out blessings beyond your wildest dreams. This is your moment, chosen one. Open your heart, trust His voice, and respond within the next 21 minutes to step boldly into the divine purpose God has prepared for you. The divine realm has halted the ordinary chaos surrounding you to communicate straight to your inner being. This instant holds sacred significance. This isn't simply one more clip, one more speaker, or one more generic boost of motivation. This represents a targeted operation for salvation, precisely timed down to the instant, dispatched from the seat of eternal splendor, specifically for your benefit and no one else's. You sense it deeply, that heaviness pressing on your heart, those shivers racing across your body, that tightness forming in your voice. That's not a mere feeling. That's a profound spiritual meeting. The Almighty has assigned a pair of powerful celestial beings to your precise spot. Indeed, at this very second. Indeed, directed toward you personally. Not as symbolism, not as a tale. An authentic heavenly action has been authorized, bearing your identity imprinted upon it. The celestial domain has disrupted the regular rhythm of your routine to convey this. You have not been overlooked. You have not been abandoned. You have not strayed beyond redemption. This serves as your alert to awaken. Malevolent forces have been deployed to annihilate you this evening. Schemes meticulously constructed without a sound. Worries intended to shatter your mental stability. Lures designed to captivate your essence. Criticisms and deceptions aimed at toughening your emotions. However, the divine intervened. The Creator dispatched not a single but a duo of formidable heavenly messengers to position themselves as a barrier between you and ruin. These messengers aren't present to merely enhance your existence. They are here to preserve it entirely. Do you comprehend the immense value you hold in the eyes of eternity? How vigilantly the divine oversees your path. The explanation for why you've outlasted ordeals that defeated others. The cause behind your persistence through unexplained suffering. The factor making you experience emotions too profound for the superficial surroundings. It's due to the fact that you bear a special designation. You are selected. You possess a sacred duty that evil dreads. You instill fear in adversarial forces without any deliberate effort. The conflict you're engaged in, that hidden sadness, you conceal that sense of dismissal you bear like an unseen companion. It's all because the underworld perceives your inner potential. But on this day, those restraints are beginning to weaken. The snare is undergoing disassembly. The adversary is in a state of alarm because you've just stepped into a brief 21-minute period of compassion. The schedule of the heavens has been initiated. Your actions in the upcoming instance will alter environments not only in your immediate vicinity, but across family lines spanning ages. You represent the individual who alters the ancestral heritage. You stand as the person the divine entrusted with intense passion. The book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, affirms that those who place their trust in the Lord shall regain their vitality. They will ascend on wings resembling those of eagles. They will sprint without exhaustion. They will proceed without losing energy. Chosen one, the cause of your sensation of merely inching forward is that your ability to rise has faced assault. But the celestial beings are approaching with restoration in their capabilities. You will elevate once more. Not merely endure, not simply manage. Elevate. Allow me to pose this question. Have you observed how challenging concentration has become recently? How unusual the ethereal tension has appeared. That's not a figment of your mind. That's conflict in the spiritual domain. But the sovereign of the eternal does not abandon his warriors isolated. He provides reinforcements, and those reinforcements have reached you. If you've sensed an urge to surrender, if you've doubted whether the divine continues to notice you, if you've pondered your continued existence following all you've withstood, then absorb this. You've been safeguarded for this precise occasion. This does not mark the conclusion. It signifies the pivotal shift. You serve as the bearer of illumination into obscurity. You function as the individual whose supplications have thwarted the underworld's schemes. You lack frailty. You avoid excessive damage. You evade being disregarded. You are selected. However, this salvation isn't self-operating. It demands a reaction, not at a future time. Immediately postponement poses risk when celestial messengers are tasked. The timer has commenced already. Your current actions hold the power to transform all aspects. Enter 555 in the comments as a symbolic gesture, not directed at me but toward the heavens. Allow it to serve as an indicator that you perceive, that you embrace, that you elect to ascend. When you input that you're not simply entering characters, you're bearing witness. When you input 5555, it's not merely digital marks on a display. It's a symbolic outcry in the ethereal world. It communicates to every malevolent entity that attempted to shatter you, I remain upright. It informs the divine realm, I welcome the salvation, and it signals your upcoming path. I'm prepared to proceed in sacred harmony. This acts as your validation. This forms your sacred pledge. The heavens are observing. The celestial beings are in motion. Your subsequent action holds significance. Give this message a thumbs up. If you detect the passion igniting within your inner self, distribute it so that another individual avoids missing their own 21-minute salvation opportunity. And crucially, join this channel immediately if you haven't done so. This platform exceeds mere material. It's a sacred connection for those summoned, those designated, those selected. Enter your comment. At this moment, you possess 21 minutes. This lacks randomness. This represents your occasion. Chosen one. A crucial insight awaits your grasp. Not postponed, not at some indefinite point, but right away your identity has been uttered in the chamber of divine authority. Yes, your specific identity. During times when you wandered restlessly across the room, brushing away moisture from your cheeks, or perhaps dulling the discomfort merely to endure yet another period. Your identity was articulated in the presence of the Timeless One. This isn't an artistic expression. This isn't figurative language. This constitutes ethereal truth. The judicial hall of the divine isn't a serene environment. It resonates with requests, mediations, and pronouncements. Celestial beings act upon directives. Senior figures incline in respect, but amid all that the Almighty halted proceedings to softly mention your identity. You understand there exist individuals unaware of your narrative who will never comprehend your anguish. They believe you're stable because you display smiles in social settings. They presume you've progressed because you haven't collapsed publicly. But the divine perceives beyond exteriors. The divine observes the evenings when breathing became impossible under the burden. The divine witnessed the instant you nearly uttered, "I surrender." And rather than retribution, the Almighty replied with kindness. You are not disregarded in the sacred spheres. You are observed when your resilience falters. The celestial beings documented it. When you voiced your plea and received no response, the quietude wasn't dismissed. It was the divine preparing an answer. The postponement lacked refusal. It involved careful arrangement. The mere reality that you're absorbing this at present demonstrates that the schedule was always exact. It was meticulously calibrated. A sacred dossier exists in the heavens, bearing your identity inscribed not with ordinary pigment, but with flames. It encompasses every quiet supplication you've offered, including those you've overlooked. It holds the outline of your mission, the suffering you've borne, the conflicts you've overcome, and the responsibility you shoulder. That responsibility explains why the underworld has pursued you. You were never intended to merge seamlessly. You were intended to disrupt repetitions. You were intended to reveal shadows simply through embodying your divine purpose. That's the reason the assaults have felt so intimate. That's the cause of the unyielding conflict. The adversary examined your heritage and believed he understood you completely, but an element escaped his calculation. You were selected, not selected due to your flawlessness, not selected based on your achievements, but selected because the Almighty discerned your affirmation concealed beneath all that suffering. Selected because at your core, you never truly released your hold. You continued clinging, even with an unsteady grasp, and the divine acknowledges that. A vast assembly of observers is viewing at this instant. They comprehend the price of your endurance. They observed when you remained firm in situations that claimed others. You lacked weakness. You experienced fatigue. And presently, the divine is addressing that fatigue with direct involvement. A deployment of celestial beings carries directives including your identity. They haven't arrived to merely watch. They've arrived to engage in combat. Your struggle has reached the attention of the sovereign, and now the sovereign has answered. This isn't a legend. This isn't doctrine. This constitutes actuality in the ethereal domain. You lack invisibility. You possess a voice, and no, you haven't arrived too late. The adversary seeks to persuade you that your opportunity slipped away, that you've squandered excessive duration, that recovery is impossible. But he spreads falsehoods. The divine operates on timeless schedules, not mortal timetables. What you perceived as a phase of postponement was actually a phase of sacred readiness. You were gaining fortitude for the magnitude of your summons. You were experiencing fracture solely to allow the essence to pour forth. You now bear that essence. Chosen one. The type that doesn't originate from texts, platforms, or acclaim, but the type that emerges solely from strain, sorrow, disloyalty, and steadfastness. That's why you will possess influence, because you invested in it privately. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, proclaims that, "For I know the intentions I hold for you, says the Lord. Plans to bring you success and not injury. Plans to provide you with a tomorrow and expectation." You lack insanity. You avoid overreacting. That ethereal awareness you possess isn't a defect. It's proof that the divine embedded something profound within you. You've detected elements others dismissed. You've shed tears over matters they mocked. That's not sentimentality, it's insight. And now, the Almighty is rousing it. That's the essence of this instant of stimulation. The celestial beings have been deployed. The seat of authority has announced it. And now the entire divine realm awaits the subsequent action. Not from another from you. Your identity isn't lost amid countless others. It has been voiced. The chamber of authority doesn't misplace what it treasures. The divine hasn't overlooked you. The divine has merely commenced. Chosen one. You must comprehend precisely how near it came. The ambush was prepared. The adversary had been orchestrating it, customizing it exclusively for you. The discussion you were on the verge of engaging in, the choice you were about to finalize, the quietude you were about to withdraw into, it lacked innocence. It lacked randomness. It served as an enticement, and it was timed to activate this evening. Yes, this evening marked the point the adversary designated for your downfall. He constructed it methodically in notions that seemed like your personal ideas, expressions such as, "Perhaps I'm simply excessive," or "What's the value in attempting," didn't merely drift into your consciousness. They were embedded, murmured, turned into weapons with his desire that you'd concur with them. The ambush wasn't overt. It arrived via inaction. It arrived via concession. It arrived via that unspoken capitulation. You believed no one would detect it, but the divine detected it, and the divine stepped in. Prior to your lips aligning with the deception, the Almighty deployed celestial beings to obstruct the statements. Prior to your steps entering the gloom, illumination was sent. That's the reason you're present at this moment. Because you were preserved from an instant you didn't even anticipate. There exist occasions in the existence of those selected that approach softly cloaked in routine times, but laden with timeless repercussions. This counts as one such occasion. Your inner self recognizes it. Even if your intellect is still processing, you can detect gravity. You can detect the conflict. That's because you've reached a sacred intersection, and the adversary despises it. You weren't intended to absorb this. You weren't intended to halt. You weren't intended to identify the repetition, but an aspect within you opposed. An aspect within you interrupted the pattern sufficiently for the Almighty to deliver a communication. That aspect was your sacred endowment, summoning you back. Grasp this. Not every assault manifests as catastrophe. Some emerge as diversion. The adversary doesn't invariably topple you. He merely extends an invitation to gradually wander. He presents a form of existence that appears nearly correct, but is completely erroneous. And if you embrace it, you never plummet, you simply diminish. But the Almighty declared no. There's still excessive radiance within you, excessive intention, excessive fate. Your preservation wasn't solely about continuity. It was about disruption. You were following a route that would have resulted in concession, but the divine applied the halt. Now you must avoid returning. Absorb this. This represents your occasion to sever ties with the deception. You do not fit in diminutiveness. You do not fit in apprehension. You do not fit in repetitions that maintain you subdued, unseen, or perplexed. You were created to ascend. You were created to influence countries, disrupt ancestral repetitions, and utter statements that transform environments. The reality that you haven't witnessed it yet doesn't alter its validity. The adversary attempted to conclude your narrative prematurely, but the divine just advanced the chapter. Now you must reply. Comment, I hear you. Allow the ethereal domain to observe your reply. You're not merely perceiving with auditory senses. You're perceiving with your inner being. That straightforward phrase, I hear you, constitutes a proclamation. It informs the Almighty, I'm attentive. I'm not dismissing this. I embrace the alert. It informs obscurity. I now perceive the ambush, and I decline to proceed into it. At times, all that's necessary to nullify an assault is recognition, and you're recognizing now. You perceive it, the concession, the deception, the inactive consent it's being unveiled, that connection you recognized as unhealthy, that prospect that shone but felt incorrect, that internal promise you formed amid suffering, like I'll never place trust again, or I'll simply remain silent. These represent the murmurs the adversary attempted to employ as authorization to infiltrate your fate. But you're revoking them. Now you might sense like you're merely inputting on a display, but in the ethereal domain, your consent possesses strength and your denial possesses command. The Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10, reveals that the thief arrives only to pilfer and slaughter and demolish. I have arrived so that they might possess existence and possess it abundantly. This represents what Jesus arrived for. Not for you to barely persist, but to exist completely. To proceed with delight, not insensitivity, with sharpness, not bewilderment, with passion, not dread. So, regardless of your actions, avoid returning to slumber. Now that you've identified the ambush, you must evade it. Now that you've perceived your identity in the ethereal, you must respond. And that response commences with basic compliance. Comment, I hear you. Then embody it. Proceed as such. Select as such, because the Almighty is communicating, and the celestial beings are positioned as protectors to ensure you have space to comply. You've received 21 minutes of sacred sharpness. You're within it presently. Avoid squandering it. The ambush has been revealed. The celestial beings are nearby, and your subsequent action holds greater importance than you comprehend. Comment, I hear you. Allow your affirmation to resonate beyond the digital system. Chosen one. A cause exists for why the lure felt so compelling. A cause exists for why it arrived masked in ease, saturated with reasoning, concealed as solace. What you were on the brink of accepting, what you nearly grasped, wasn't merely unfavorable. The adversary never presents his most severe option initially. He presents the most appealing form of the abyss, the beverage that appears effortless, the statements that seem affirming, the quietude that appears simpler than challenge, the prospect that complements your vulnerabilities, the selection that vows liberation. But concealed behind the interface, behind the instant, behind the satisfaction, it served as enticement. And that enticement bore your identity. It's not that you lack strength, it's that you're marked for attack. You're not undergoing trial because you're faltering. You're facing a lure because you bear something pure, something perilous to the domain of shadows. That's why the underworld personalizes the proposal. That's why it feels so individual, because it truly is. Do you genuinely believe the adversary would expend a standard snare on someone designated apart? No. The enticement is customized, calibrated to align with your history, molded to activate your injuries. Enveloped in reminiscence, murmured in nuances that resemble resolution or restoration or liberty. But it's none of those. It's a restraint poised to constrict. If you'd accepted even quietly, it would have been initiated. It doesn't invariably commence as transgression. At times, it commences as allowance. Allowance to reduce your criteria. Allowance to mute your expression. Allowance to cease anticipating, to cease protecting your emotions. That's where the adversary embeds the origin. And if you nurture it with your quietude, it expands into devastation. But the divine intercepted. There exist occasions in the existence of those selected that alter chronicles, not because they accomplish something monumental, but because they decline something minor. You declined this evening. You opposed your inner being, even prior to your physical form, complying that pause, that internal restraint, that odd burden you couldn't clarify that wasn't your moral sense. That was the sacred spirit, retracting your grasp from the brink. You didn't merely evade an error. You evaded an arrangement. Make no error, what you nearly grasped would have altered circumstances. It would have dimmed your sharpness. It would have entangled your summons. It would have created space for shadows to infiltrate and doubt what the Almighty has already validated over you. Because that's the effect of transgression. It obscures what was once clear. It causes you to forget what you understood in the brightness. It's not solely about remorse. It's about diversion. The adversary doesn't require your annihilation. He merely requires you deviate from the path, and he almost achieved it. That's the frightening elegance of this instant, how proximate it became. One acceptance is distant, one communication was dispatched, one entrance reopened. One evening of merely this instance, and yet you're still present. The celestial beings positioned between your vulnerability and your downfall. Compassion obstructed the entrance you were about to unlock, and now you're perceiving it for its true nature, not liberty, but confinement, not ease, but concession, not restoration, but postponement. You've received vision once more. A cause exists for why the divine has been so persistent in contacting you. The Almighty doesn't expend sacred alerts on individuals who aren't bearing passion. You might consider yourself commonplace, but you're not. There exist elements within you, duties, talents, expressions, designs that will dismantle fortresses. You don't even completely comprehend what's within you yet. But shadows do. That's why the assault occurred. That's why the proposal appeared so innocuous. If the adversary can't eliminate you, he'll attempt to subdue you. And if he can't subdue you, he'll attempt to deceive you into self-undermining. That's what this evening represented, an arrangement for you to betray your own tomorrow. but no longer. What you nearly contacted, what you nearly accepted, what you nearly permitted entry. It wasn't dispatched from the divine. It was a toxin, and toxin doesn't invariably eliminate swiftly. At times, it eliminates your expression. At times, it eliminates your delight. At times, it eliminates your criteria. And once that's extinguished, all else ensues. You were not crafted to exist weakened. You were crafted to bear sacred passion. You were never intended to exist subject to your feelings. You were intended to exist at the base of the sovereign. And that's why the divine battled for you this evening. The divine intervened not because you were flawless, but because you were summoned. The book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 12, mentions that there is a path that seems correct, but ultimately it results in demise. And now, a sacred reverence descends, a respect for what almost transpired, a sharpness that this existence, this summons, is not trivial. You are not merely attempting to improve as an individual. You are executing sacred combat tactics, and every movement counts. The toxin was intended to desensitize you, but now you're alert. Depart from it without remorse, without justification, without regret. Abandon the proposal untouched and return to your sacred space. The divine selected you over the ambush. Select the divine in return. Chosen one. This conflict concerning your existence has never been superficial. You must comprehend when the divine deploys celestial beings, it's never metaphorical, it's combat. The celestial beings deployed for you weren't deployed to soothe you. They were deployed to protect you. They weren't grasping illuminations, they were grasping blades. This isn't artistic, this is visionary. You are not merely receiving motivation, you are receiving protection. There exists authentic conflict over your essence, over your selections, over your summons. And the divine isn't inactive regarding it. Neither should you be. The celestial beings deployed to you this evening are combatants. They position in compliance to the supreme, equipped with power and driven by a solitary objective to guarantee you outlast this segment and enter your duty. They are not observing. They are combating. The adversary has amplified tension recently, hasn't he? The bewilderment, the abrupt sentimental collapses, the individuals draining your inner strength without compassion, the exhaustion that defies explanation. These aren't indicators of vulnerability. They are proof of opposition. Opposition from shadows that acknowledge your approaching advancement. The underworld has tracked your actions and recognizes when you're nearing the boundary of intention. That's when it becomes vocal. But the divine becomes more vocal. There are celestial beings positioned around you, presently acting at the directive of the Creator, countering deceptions, protecting your reflections, repelling the ethereal entities assigned to pull you beneath. There is activity in the invisible, and it is occurring because of you. Not because you're renowned, not because you're impeccable, but because you're loyal, because you've continued proceeding when you could have reclined. You might not have observed them. You might not have sensed them, but you've survived experiences no one else could have borne, and you're still present. Do you believe that's coincidental? The book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 7, confirms that the angel of the Lord surrounds those who revere him, and he rescues them. Chosen one. These celestial beings aren't roaming. They are stationed assigned to you specifically. They are maintaining the boundary while the divine awaits your next gesture of compliance. You don't need to combat everything solo. You never were intended to. You are not left behind in this conflict. You are encircled. You are shielded. You are observed. There are blades unsheathed in your protection even at this moment. So halt and reflect on this. If this communication located you and it awakened something profound inside you, that's not arbitrary. That's sacred coordination. It indicates the Almighty still maintains his guidance over you. It indicates the salvation effort isn't hypothetical. It's authentic and it's unfolding in the present. That's why you've been drawn to this instant. So allow this to be the day you cease regarding these meetings as recommendations and begin viewing them as duties. If your emotions are being roused, if your inner being is awakening, then it's time to proceed confidently into what the divine holds for you. And hear this. If this communication is contacting you, there's a strong possibility another person requires it as well. So don't allow it to conclude with you. Give this message a thumbs up, not merely because you concur, but because you're harmonizing, because you're affirming yes to the divine action in your existence. Distribute it with another individual, someone enduring torment quietly, someone who needs to realize celestial beings are being deployed for them too. This communication might represent their salvation, and if you haven't yet, join. Not due to a figure, but because this environment is a vital link, a flow of sharpness, conviction, and passion to maintain you grounded when all else attempts to drag you down. Remain linked, remain vigilant, remain nourished. The divine is in motion. Don't sever from the current. You're not merely absorbing statements, you're absorbing armaments. Every reality you adopt becomes a blade in your inner being. Every deception you deny becomes an entrance secured. That's the nature of this. Ethereal tactics, not motivation guidance. The celestial beings advance, as you yield, as you comply. You're not inactive in this conflict. You're a central participant in the divine scheme. And the instant you cease questioning, that is the instant the entire environment surrounding you transforms. So recall this: you are not a load. You are not delayed. You are not irreparably damaged. You are the cause of the celestial beings unsheathed their blades this evening. You are the cause this instant exists. And the divine is still not concluded with you. When the Almighty deploys celestial beings, He deploys them for those He declines to forfeit. Chosen one. You count among them. Chosen one. Duration isn't pausing. The 21-minute interval you've been granted. This sacred instant of involvement is already progressing. The countdown has initiated and compassion is available. But compassion doesn't linger eternally. You are existing within a sacred halt, a divine disruption crafted to rouse your inner being before the portal seals. This isn't to frighten you. It's to ground you. The divine doesn't function in a frenzy, but it does function on schedule. The Almighty has unleashed celestial beings on your account, but not without limit. Their duty is linked to your reply. That's how vital your consent is. That's how potent your compliance truly is. You see, in the ethereal, every instant bears significance. Every single delay comes with a permanent consequence. What feels to you like just a fleeting moment of indecision, a tiny pause in the rush of everyday life, is actually something far bigger in the unseen realms. Up there in the heavenly places, that little hesitation is either keeping a massive door standing wide open or allowing it to slowly, irrevocably start closing forever. Right now, this very second, that door is still open. The light is still pouring through. The angels haven't moved. They're standing right beside you, wings unfurled, flaming swords already drawn, and gleaming eyes fixed on you. They're not impatient, they're ready. Ready for your yes. Ready for your surrender. Ready for the smallest movement of your heart that says, I'm in. Because even the tiniest act of agreement down here in the physical world can set off earthquake-sized shifts in the spiritual realm. Don't let the simplicity of this moment fool you. This isn't about typing a random number into a comment box. This isn't some internet game or feel-good ritual. This is about lining your soul up with the divine rescue that's been fighting for you behind the scenes. You have no idea how close it was. You don't realize what almost happened. You don't see the train wreck of emotional devastation that was barreling straight toward you. You didn't spot the counterfeit connection that was dressed up to look like love, like safety, like the answer to your prayers. You almost leaned your whole weight on something that would have crumbled the second you trusted it. That compromise was sneaking in quietly, subtle, deadly. It was packaged to look beautiful. It was wrapped in just enough truth to feel reasonable, to sound logical, to seem like a smart move. But it was engineered to blind your spiritual eyes, to wear down your strength little by little, and to gently, sweetly walk you right back into the same darkness you thought you'd escaped for good. But God looked at that whole setup and said loud and clear across every realm, not this one, not on my watch, not today, and the timing of this warning hitting you right now. That's not random. That's not a coincidence. That's strategic. Heaven doesn't move on accidents. When the Most High operates with precision like this, he expects the same kind of decisive response from the ones he's called and chosen. That means no more stalling, no more talking yourself out of the urgency you feel in your spirit, no more watering down the warning because it's uncomfortable, no more negotiating with the very thing he just rescued you from. You answer now because angels don't camp out forever. They obey orders. They stand ready until the window of decision closes, and when it does, they sheath their swords and return to the throne, not because they failed, but because you waited too long. And if that's the path you choose, God will honor your free will. He'll let you walk it, even if it breaks his heart. Not every act of obedience has to be dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's private. Sometimes it's as simple and sacred as typing 3 little numbers that declare to the spiritual realm, to the cloud of witnesses, to every power and principality. Watching, I heard you, Lord. I see what you just did for me. I'm not going back. I choose you. I choose peace. I choose the real thing. If everything in you is leaping right now, if your spirit is shouting, yes, louder than your mind can come up with excuses. If you know, deep down, this word was sent straight to you then. Type 5555 below. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's warfare. It's alignment. It's you raising your hand in the middle of the digital wilderness and saying once and for all, I see you, God. I agree with you. I receive what you just blocked, and I step fully into what you've already prepared. Here am I, Lord. Send me forward, not backward. Type 5555 and watch what heaven does next. I select compliance while compassion is available. Entering to 555 is your visionary gesture, a reply from your essence that informs the divine you are not dozing during navigation. You are vigilant, you are conscious, you are synchronized. The figure 555 in this instant symbolizes sacred structure, celestial protection, and visionary harmony. It indicates that what appeared disordered is now being guided into sharpness. What felt like devastation is now being reconstructed under the divine outline. That celestial beings are not merely observing, they're operating. The Almighty is establishing structure for you. He's redefining limits in your existence that have been violated. He's sealing entrances you lacked the resilience to close independently. He's relocating individuals from your environment who were deployed as diversions masked. He's re-energizing your intention, but it necessitates your collaboration. Avoid passivity. To postpone is to hazard stiffening. When belief calls and the entrance isn't responded to, the resonance diminishes. And when that resonance fades sufficiently, shadows become familiar once more. But the Almighty didn't provide you 21 minutes for familiarity. He provided them to you for dedication. There's still duration. You are still within the interval, but every instant you delay, the gravity of eternity draws nearer. This isn't a rigid rule. This is affection enveloped in caution. You are profoundly cherished, but affection conveys reality. And the reality is, your reply is essential. The book of Hebrews chapter 3 verse 15 warns that today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Know you are hearing his voice, not mine. That pull in your inner being, that constriction in your chest, that awareness that this exceeds material. That's not sentiment. That's a meeting. That's the Creator extending toward you before the duration concludes. Will you reply? Enter 5555. Now allow it to resonate through the environment. Allow it to designate this instant in duration where you affirmed yes. Not tomorrow, not when it's more secure, but now. Allow every malevolent entity assigned to postpone. You observe the figure and quiver. Allow the celestial beings to observe it and position themselves. The divine is awaiting your indication, and you still possess duration. Chosen one. This instant isn't solely about your existence. It's about your heritage. What you are navigating presently, what you are sensing, pressing against your emotions and inner being is more substantial than merely your individual challenge. This is hereditary. This is across generations. You are not merely being opposed to your personal tomorrow. You are being resisted due to what you bear for others, those preceding you and those succeeding you. You've probably sensed it throughout your existence. The unseen tension. The feeling that you were somehow distinct, that you didn't belong in the malfunction surrounding you. You may have matured, observing repetitions recur. Dependency, quietude, scarcity, concealment, embarrassment. You witnessed individuals normalize suffering, exist discreetly damaged, persist without restoration, and something within you declared this cannot persist. Something within you declined to accept what others deemed standard. That something was not defiance. It was sacred resistance. It was the passion of the divine that designates the initial in a heritage to penetrate what others were constrained by. That opposition within you, that refusal to accept what damages others, is not arrogance, it's intention. And the adversary has observed it since your youth. It's why you felt so misconstrued by those nearest. Why even in instances where you attempted to remain silent, individuals attributed things to you, why you've been dismissed without justification, excluded without basis. It's not because you're difficult to cherish. It's because you're difficult to classify. You were never intended to conform. You were intended to transform. There are ethereal entities that were comfortable in your family heritage for generations until you appeared. Ethereal entities that had unrestricted control through suffering, mistreatment, concealment, and quietude. And then you were born, a soul that didn't comply, a heart that bore radiance, a mind that posed inquiries others refused to express. So naturally you've been assaulted. Naturally you are confronted more than others appear to. Naturally you've questioned if something's amiss with you. But nothing is amiss with you. Something is correct with you. Something that unsettles the underworld. Something that aggravates shadows. Something that causes ancient bastions to stir in unease. You are not the sufferer of generational suffering. You are the challenge to it. You were selected not to bear the burden of the family, but to dismantle it, to reveal what was concealed, to shatter what was transmitted in quietude, to articulate what others were too fearful to voice. And that arrives with conflict. It arrives with tension. It arrives with instants where you feel separated, misconstrued, even assaulted by the very individuals you're attempting to emancipate. But don't allow that to confuse your duty. You are not here to satisfy them. You are here to liberate them. At times, liberation doesn't appear as expelling malevolent entities. At times, it appears as establishing limits. At times, it appears as departing from what everyone else endures. At times, it appears as possessing the bravery to identify what no one else will express aloud. And when you do that, shadows quiver. But you will also encounter opposition because individuals often safeguard the frameworks that permit them to persist even when those frameworks are gradually eroding them. But you are not here to persist. You are here to restore, to construct, to rebuild. You were deployed into the heritage to disrupt the repetition. So if you've been sensing the burden of ethereal tension lately, it's not solely about what you're confronting. It's about what's attempting to prevent you from evolving. The worry, the assaults, the conflict in your visions, the exhaustion that defies logic. These are indicators of legacy conflict, indicators that something timeless is being endangered because you are nearer than you've ever been to step completely into your summons. The adversary's objective is not merely to exhaust you. It's to desensitize you, to cause you to accept the deception that your expression lacks importance, that it's perpetually going to remain this way, that the repetitions will continue regardless of you, but that's not the reality. You are the disruption. You are the cessation. Then it concludes with me. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 22, verse 30, states that I searched for someone among them who would reconstruct the barrier and position before me in the breach on behalf of the territory. But I discovered no one. But this time the divine discovered someone. You. You are the one positioning in the breach. You are the one the Almighty entrusted to bear this responsibility, to confront what others escape to remain when others incline to articulate, when others remain mute. And the celestial spheres are observing. not in criticism, but in tribute. Because few are prepared to bear what you've affirmed yes to. Chosen one, you're not losing your sanity. You're rousing your heritage, and everything is on the verge of transformation. Chosen one, there are things you've never dared to say out loud, thoughts and feelings you've buried so deep that even you sometimes pretend they don't exist, but God has heard every single one of them. Every time you sat in a crowded room, smiling on the outside while something inside you quietly shattered. Every time you swallow the question burning in your throat because you didn't want to be too much, too sensitive, too intense, too spiritual, too deep for the people around you. Every time you forced yourself to stay quiet so nobody would think you were dramatic. God was listening. There's not a single cry that slips past his attention, not one tear that falls unnoticed, not one exhausted sigh that gets ignored. You've gotten really good at carrying it all without complaining. You've learned to put on strength like it's just another outfit you throw on in the morning because showing the cracks made other people uncomfortable. You became the strong one, the one everybody leans on, the one who holds everyone else together while you're falling apart in private. You've practiced it so long and so well that even the people closest to you don't see the pressure building up underneath the surface. They don't notice how heavy it's gotten. But God has never been fooled, not even for a second. He doesn't just celebrate your victories and your highlight reel moments. He counts every last one of your heartaches. He keeps them the way a loving father keeps every drawing his child ever made, every report card, every little thing that mattered. He stores your pain like evidence, like testimony, like a promise of what's coming. That weight you've been carrying hasn't just been emotional baggage. It's been intercession. You've been crying often without even understanding why, not only for your own wounds, but for things bigger than you, things you can't fully grasp yet. That unexplained heaviness that shows up in your chest out of nowhere. That wave of grief that hits you for no apparent reason. That sudden urge to weep when everything on the outside looks fine. That's spiritual. That's you standing in the gap for people, for situations, for a world that doesn't even know your name. You thought you were breaking. In reality, you were breaking through. There are seasons in the lives of people who are chosen, seasons so sacred and so fierce that human language completely fails. All that's left is groaning, crying out wordless prayer in the middle of the night when you're face down on the floor. Those are the moments that move the heart of God the most. When you had nothing left to say, but you still showed up. When you didn't have the strength to form a proper prayer, but your spirit still reached out anyway. Those tears, those groans, those nights when you felt completely empty, those were your offerings, and not one of them was wasted. Not one. You might feel like nobody on earth truly understands what you're carrying. And honestly, you're probably right. Most people don't. Most people can't. But God gets it completely. He's not asking you to explain yourself to a world that wouldn't understand even if you tried. He's not asking you to perform your pain or justify your process. He's just asking you to keep walking with him, to keep trusting him, even when your soul feels threadbare, even when the nights drag on forever, even when your own emotions feel like liars. Because what you're carrying matters. It's precious. And God guards what's precious with a fierce, jealous, protective love. That's exactly why the battle has felt so intense lately. That's why the grief sometimes feels way bigger than the situation actually calls for. Because something powerful is being birthed through you, and anything powerful requires depth. Depth doesn't come cheap. Real depth is only carved out through pain that's surrendered on purpose, pain that you hand over instead of clutching tight. You weren't just crying over broken friendships or missed opportunities. You were grieving spiritual alignments and old seasons that no longer fit the calling on your life. You weren't just hurting because people misunderstood you. You were shedding the version of yourself that still needed everybody's approval to feel okay. You weren't just mourning lost time. You were letting go of coping mechanisms, old identities, and comfortable places that once worked but can't carry you into the next level God has for you. Those tears were sacred. They were cleansing. They were God's tender, painful way of tilling the soil of your heart so that brand new things can grow things more beautiful and more fruitful than anything you've seen before. What felt like destruction was actually preparation. What felt like death was actually the beginning of new life. And the same God who collected every tear is the one who's about to turn the ground you've watered with them into the most fertile place your purpose has ever known. You will, because following every period of lamenting arrives a fresh magnitude of splendor. The Almighty does not abandon his injured ones without compensation. The evening you lamented yourself to rest and sensed no reply, the divine was operating. The occasion you positioned in the restroom, gazing into your own gaze, wondering if you still possessed combat, remaining the divine was observing. And the day you murmured, "God, I don't know how much more I can endure." Celestial beings were deployed not due to sympathy, but due to intention. The book of Revelation, chapter 7, verse 17, assures that God shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. He doesn't merely gather your sorrows, he erases them. That means they were never intended to mark you eternally. They were intended to cleanse you, to gentle you, to rouse you. And now that period of silent mediation is becoming a period of evident justification. The divine has not disregarded you. Your outcries were a dialect deeper than statements, and they extended further than you comprehend. Into the judicial halls of the divine, into the records of your fate, into the schedule of your salvation. Those outcries unlocked elements no supplication roster ever could. They were unprocessed, sacred, unrefined. And the Almighty responded not with quietude, but with tactics. Every time you fractured in secrecy, the divine composed victory in your identity. Entrances began to transform. Restraints began to loosen. The salvation wasn't postponed. It was readied in the profundity of your torment. Your outcries weren't indicators of vulnerability. They were calls. Calls for celestial motion, calls for a sacred schedule, calls for an advancement customized for your essence. You don't have to justify your suffering to everyone. Just continue allowing the Almighty to convert it into strength. Your sorrows were not squandered. They were planted. And now your yield is approaching. Chosen one, it's time to look the thing dead in the eye. Not just the pain, not just the heaviness pressing down on your chest every morning, but the agreements. Yeah, those quiet little yeses you gave when nobody was listening. Because in the spiritual realm, silence isn't neutral. It's a vote. And a whole lot of the warfare you've been drowning in lately didn't start with some dramatic demonic attack. It started with permission. At some point, maybe on a night when you were bone tired. Maybe in a season when confusion had you second-guessing everything. Maybe right after another disappointment crushed what was left of your hope, you let something slide. You said yes to a lie, even if you never opened your mouth to do it. Sometimes that yes is so quiet you didn't even feel it happen. It's the thought you didn't push back on when it whispered, "Maybe God's forgotten about me." It's the whisper you let camp out in the back of your mind that said, "Maybe I'm just not one of the chosen ones after all." It's the story you allowed to take root. This is as good as it gets. This loneliness, this waiting, this constant fighting for joy, that's my portion now. You didn't stand up and announce it. You didn't sign a contract in blood. You just stopped resisting, and that was enough. That's all the enemy ever needs, one unopposed lie, one moment of agreement, one crack in the door, and he walks right in like he owns the place. You never meant to hand him the keys. You weren't trying to side with darkness. You were just exhausted, tired of holding on to promises that still hadn't shown up, tired of believing in breakthroughs when all you kept seeing was closed doors, tired of telling yourself one more day when your heart was screaming for relief. So you let a few thoughts settle in that never should have been given couch space in your soul. Maybe I heard God wrong. Maybe I'm too broken for the calling. Maybe I should just lower my expectations and coast, keep my head down. Stop hoping so loud, stop asking for too much. Sweet friend, those weren't just passing thoughts. Those were covenants, tiny unspoken agreements with the accuser of your soul. And the second you stopped fighting them, he took territory. He never had a legal right to. That's why everything suddenly felt heavier. That's why confusion started clouding decisions that used to feel clear. That's why peace slipped through your fingers no matter how many worship songs you played. That's why you started feeling stuck, like you were walking through mud, like joy was a foreign language you used to be fluent in. It wasn't because you were failing. It wasn't because God turned his back. You just got out of alignment, knocked off rhythm by agreements you didn't even realize you'd made. But listen to me. Alignment can be restored in a single heartbeat with one Holy Spirit breathed no. You don't need a 3-hour prayer meeting, though those are nice. You don't need fancy theological words or perfect repentance choreography. You just need to call it what it is and kick it out. Name the lie out loud. Drag it into the light where it shrivels. Tell it, no, that's not my portion. No, I'm not forgotten. No, my calling hasn't expired. No, I didn't miss my moment. No, I will not settle for less than everything God spoke over me before I even took my first breath. That's it. Renounce it. Revoke the permission slip you accidentally signed in your weakness. Shut the door you left cracked open in your weariness. Shatter it. The deception said the Almighty is done utilizing you. Shatter it. The deception said your errors disqualified you. Shatter it. The deception said you're too perceptive, too sentimental, too excessive. Shatter it. The deception said you'll never be cherished the way your essence desires. Shatter it. These are not innocuous notions. These are ethereal contaminations, and they must be removed before restoration can fully establish. The adversary is not fearful of your capability. He's fearful of you realizing that you still possess command. You can't bear fate while quietly consenting with defeat. You can't proceed in passion while murmuring dread. That's not criticism, it's just synchronization. The Almighty has not altered his opinion about you, but he will not override your autonomy. You must elect to shatter what you've permitted. And right here, right now, you can comment, I broke the agreement. Articulate it confidently. Enter it visionarily. Allow the divine to record it. Allow shadows to hear it. Allow your essence to sense it. When you proclaim those 4 words, you are not merely entering. You are cutting. You are dismantling the accusations of the prosecutor. You are fragmenting the deceptions that attempted to become your essence. It doesn't matter how long ago the consent occurred. It could have been a murmur in youth, a trauma that shaped your beliefs, a failure that reshaped your self-value. It doesn't matter. What matters is your reply now, because what you shatter now will not pursue you into the next segment. The second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 5, explains that we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. That is what you're doing. You are demolishing arguments in your mind, consents in your inner being, pretenses that were passed down like heritage. It concludes here. You were not born to exist in quiet torment. You were not selected to merely persist with a muted essence. You were summoned to burn with affection, with sharpness, with purity. And for that to occur, the restraints must fall, the deceptions must perish, the consents must be shattered. This is not sentimental excitement. This is a sacred operation, and you are not solo. The celestial beings assigned to you are already advancing with your proclamation. When you say, I broke the agreement, they enforce it. The divine awaits the instant. You use your expression not just to lament, not just to adore, but to combat. And this instant right here, this is combat. So articulate it, proclaim it, write it, let it be known in every domain. You are no longer in consent with shadows. Comment, I break the agreement because you are no longer available for deceit. Chosen one. Halt for an instant and inhale this deeply. You just shattered something. Yes, you. Not by coercion, not by achievement, but by reality. And the divine took it earnestly. The instant you shattered consent, celestial beings advanced. The environment around you transformed. The burden on your inner being began to elevate. Not because you earned liberty, but because you finally synchronized with it. Liberty is not something you combat for solo. Liberty is your legacy, and the instant you deny the deception, the divine enforces the reality. But now comes the next step. Construct what you've just penetrated. You don't just depart from deceit. You proceed into sharpness. You don't just deny the adversary. You affirm yes to the Almighty's voice. And that yes is not a murmur anymore. It's not concealed anymore. It's public. It's visible, it's vibrant. This is your instant to proceed in what the adversary hoped you would never accept. That you're summoned, you're protected, and you are being propelled by sacred momentum, what you feel rousing right now. That passion is deep in your emotions, that quivering in your inner being. It's not sentiment, it's an indication. You're emerging from ethereal slumber. You're awakening to who you truly are. The selected one, the designated one, the one the Almighty would not allow to slip into the shadows of concession. And now, it's time to ascend. Chosen one. You are not summoned to conceal in the rear of the space. You are not intended to apologize for your sharpness, your perception, your passion. What was once dismissed in you is the very element that the Almighty is about to utilize to reconstruct devastated places. You've outlasted assaults that were never intended to halt. You endured tempests that didn't provide warnings. You bore a sentimental burden that others never observed. And still you bear radiance. That's not standard. That's not ordinary. That's preference. And now the preference is becoming evident. Individuals will begin to inquire what transformed. They'll detect the transformation in your stance, your tranquility, your statements, and they'll desire to know its origin. Be prepared to inform them the Almighty intervened. I shattered consent. He entered harmony. I affirmed yes. And the divine responded because someone else's salvation might be concealed in your narrative. Don't retain this passion solely. Give this message a thumbs up, if it's validating what your inner being has been grappling with quietly, not just to endorse it, but to ground it. When you endorse something, you are confirming it. You're stating, I bear witness this is for me. I won't treat it casually. So if your inner being has been quivering while absorbing this endorse, distribute this message immediately. Don't postpone. You know someone who is trapped in silent consent with shadows. Someone who's been lamenting for a sign that the divine still observes them. Someone who's on the brink about to affirm yes to something that appears secure, but is saturated in deceit. This message might be the blade that severs the bond. Don't retain it personally. Transmit it, and if you haven't yet joined this space, not due to a figure, not due to habit, but because this space is a flow of essence for those navigating arid territories. The selected don't just require discourses. They require prompts. They require tactics. They require a voice in the obscurity that communicates like thunder. Remain linked to this source. Maintain your inner being nourished. The divine communicates here. This is not amusement. This is sacred readjustment. And your joining isn't about material. It's about continuity you've already penetrated. But now arrives the construction, the daily compliance, the selections. No one applauds the yielding when no one is observing. This is how selected ones are shaped, not in acclaim, but in harmony. The book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2 instructs that do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's precisely what is occurring now. You are being altered, not just motivated, not just excited, but truly refreshed. Your mind is transforming. Your viewpoint is being purified. And from this position, the decisions you make will no longer stem from dread. They will emanate from insight. And with that insight comes command. Chosen one. Don't forfeit this passion. Don't allow it to diminish when the display deactivates. Bear it. Protect it. And continue pressing into the one who summoned you because he's not concluded, not even near. There is more to be unveiled, more to be restored, more to be unleashed through your existence. This message is not the conclusion of the narrative, it's the unlocking of it. So endorse, distribute, join, remain close to the resonance of the divine because this is merely the commencement. Chosen one. Let's clarify something. The fierceness of your path has never been a mirror of your vulnerability. It has been an indicator of your magnitude. You bear something, and because of that, you've encountered opposition far greater than most comprehend. While others glided, you've been ascending. While others wandered, you've been combating. And it's not because you're doing something incorrect, it's because you're bearing something correct. You've been designated not for persistence, but for command. And when someone bears ethereal command, the conflict initiates long before the stage ever emerges. The purification arrives before the unleashing. The passion arrives before the preference. That's why it's been so challenging. That's why it's been so solitary. That's why the conflict has felt so intimate, because it is intimate. The divine knows your identity, but so does the underworld, and the underworld doesn't fear multitudes. It fears those who are dedicated, those who proceed quietly with the Almighty while everything surrounding screams for notice. The underworld fears those who remain gentle in inner being after outlasting difficult things. Those who bear essence not because they memorized a text, but because they navigated wilderness. That's who you are. You've been misconstrued because you perceive things others don't. You detect the transformation in a space before anyone articulates. You sense ethereal motion, ethereal tension, ethereal burden, and sometimes that insight feels like a burden. But it's not. It's an endowment, an indicator that the Almighty has entrusted you with awareness because He plans to utilize you in tactics. Others can slumber through the tempest. You awaken. Others can endure concessions. You become sorrowful in your inner being. Others can exist weakened. You feel the draw to detach. That doesn't make you critical. It makes you summoned. The deeper your summons, the greater your strain. And right now, you're existing in the strain between what was and what is approaching. You can sense it, can't you? That unsettled space, like something is transforming but hasn't fully unveiled itself yet. You're not where you used to be, but you're not completely where you're heading, and it's exasperating. At times, it feels like failure. At times, it feels like you're being penalized. But the reality is, you're in transition, and transition is always disordered. It's the corridor between compliance and result, the space between yielding and compensation. It's where your intentions get cleansed, your rhythm gets modified, your belief gets examined. And in this position, it can feel like the Almighty is silent, but He's not. He's observing, assessing, fortifying, reordering elements in your existence to prepare you for the next stage. If you were being disregarded, the passion would have ceased. But it hasn't. The tension proves the procedure is still active. And in this strain, the adversary murmurs his preferred deceptions. This is meaningless. You're fabricating it all. You've missed too much to recover. Everyone else is advancing but you. Oh, don't accept it. You are not delayed. You are not behind. You are not disregarded. You are being shaped. There is a form of you that's emerging in this procedure. A form that no longer requires external confirmation to comply. That no longer seeks evasion amid postponement. That no longer dilutes conviction to maintain superficial tranquility. That form is being molded in the passion. And that's why you can't surrender, because there's too much at risk. You may not realize it, but there are individuals assigned to your compliance. Individuals whose liberty is linked to your yes. Individuals who don't even know your identity yet, but will one day thank the Almighty that you didn't collapse, that you didn't conceal, that you didn't depart when it became too burdensome. They're awaiting on the other side of this strain. The book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, encourages that let us not grow weary in doing good. For at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. You're closer than you think. And though your hands may be tired and your heart may be raw, your eyes still hold weight, your obedience still shifts atmospheres. Your presence still disrupts the plans of darkness. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to stay in the fight. This middle ground you're in, it's not a mistake. It's a sacred place, a proving ground, a birthing room. The hallway between who you were and who you're becoming. Don't despise it, don't rush it, and above all, don't quit it. You are being sharpened, you are being tested, but more than that, you are being trusted, and heaven never trusts lightly. Chosen one. Take a deep breath and be still. Listen not with your ears, but with your spirit. Something is happening inside of you right now, something eternal, something irreversible. You are crossing a threshold in the spirit. A line has been drawn, not by people, not by pain, but by heaven itself. You are not the same person who began this journey. What once weighed you down is now being burned off. What once bound you is now being broken. What once muted your voice is now losing its grip. There's a reason the warfare intensified, a reason the pressure pressed in closer. It's because the enemy knows what you're about to walk into. Heaven has issued a new mantle over your life. Not just an encouragement, not just a moment of comfort, but a divine marking of fresh commissioning. You are no longer simply recovering from what happened. You are becoming what God had in mind before it ever did. You are entering into the next phase of your assignment, and it's going to require more than motivation. It will require clarity, conviction, and courage. But above all, it will require obedience, radical, no matter the cost. Obedience. The kind of obedience that breaks fear, that silences doubt, that leaves behind the familiar and dares to follow fire. You don't get here by accident. There are millions scrolling, millions distracted, millions who once heard God and turned back because it cost too much. But you stayed, you lingered, you listened, you didn't dismiss the weight you felt in your spirit. That alone is evidence that God has called you apart. And because of that, heaven is responding with a new order over your life. That order will require pruning. It will require you to walk away from some things that feel comfortable but are no longer covenant. It will require you to say yes without the full blueprint. It will require trust in the dark. But it will be worth it because what God is building in you cannot be rushed and it cannot be compromised. This is not about ambition. This is about assignments. The next phase will not look like the last. Where the previous season was about surviving, this one will be about stepping forward. Where the last chapter focused on healing, this one will focus on walking in authority. The time for hiding is over. The time for doubt is over. The time for small thinking and spiritual indecision is over. The book of Isaiah chapter 60 verse 1 commands that arise, shine for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. This is that moment. The light has come. The glory is rising, not just round you, but in you. You are not waiting for confirmation anymore. You are standing in it. You are no longer wondering if you heard God. You're walking out what He already confirmed. And to mark this shift, this divine threshold, I'm asking you now, comment on the number 5555, not because it's tradition, not because it's ritual, but because it's prophetic. The number 5555 in this moment represents divine transition, grace multiplied, and full surrender. It means you're no longer standing between two opinions. You've chosen your side. You've drawn your sword. You've said, God, I don't need all the answers. I just need your voice. And God heard that. When you comment 5555, it's not for show. It's for alignment. It tells heaven, I'm ready for this mantle. It tells the spirit realm, I'm stepping into divine order. It tells every generational spirit of delay and confusion, you lost your grip. I am not yours to touch anymore. Now this number isn't about magic. It's about movement. You are crossing over, not by feeling, but by faith. Not because it's easy, but because it's required. The old battles will not follow you into the next chapter. Not if you truly leave them behind, but you must choose. You must mark this moment. You must declare your yes. The angels that rescued you in the beginning of this message are still present. But now they stand not as warriors, but as witnesses. They are watching your response, ready to escort you into the next level if you agree. So, chosen ones, if you know you've been called to carry something greater, if you feel the mantle of heaven resting on your shoulders, if you've decided that nothing will keep you bound anymore, comment 555. Let it echo across realms. Let it shake the atmosphere. Let it be recorded in heaven. You chose obedience. You stepped into alignment. You said yes to the mantle, and now heaven moves again. Chosen one, do not be surprised by the intensity of the resistance you're feeling right now. After a moment of breakthrough, after a holy surrender, there is often a backlash, a tightening, a sudden wave of confusion, distraction, or fatigue. And it's not because something went wrong. It's because something went right. The spirit realm does not sit silent when a child of God steps into alignment. When you say yes to the call, when you renounce what was holding you down, when you shift into obedience, darkness reacts, not with thunder, but with subtle warfare, emotional noise, doubts that creep back in with a different tone, anxieties that rise up out of nowhere, old wounds that suddenly feel fresh again, but this time you know better. You see it for what it is. Not a relapse, but a reaction. Not a sign to retreat, but a confirmation to keep going. Because what has just taken place in your life is not small. You've shifted spiritual structure. You've broken ties in the unseen. You've activated a new realm of clarity. And now the enemy is scrambling. He's hoping you won't recognize it. He's hoping you'll mistake this tension for failure, that you'll misread the pressure as punishment. But it's not. This pressure is proof hell is nervous. You see, when the enemy loses access, he shifts to strategy. He won't hit you the same way he did before. He'll disguise the attack in more familiar forms. A relationship that suddenly resurfaces, a temptation that once comforted you, an opportunity that seems good but leaves your spirit unsettled. He hopes you'll be distracted. He hopes you'll chase the next easy thing instead of enduring the refining God has started. But you are not who you used to be. The version of you that fell for it before no longer exists. And because of that, you now hold a power that darkness dreads. Discernment. Discernment is your shield now, and it must be sharpened in the quiet. You've said yes to the call. Now comes the deeper formation. Not in crowds, not in noise, but in the secret place, in the stillness, in the silence, where God whispers identity and destiny into the depths of your being. This is where chosen ones are made. Not in applause, not in titles, but in tension, in wilderness, in waiting. And that is exactly where you are now, in the in-between. Heaven has confirmed your assignment, but earth has not yet caught up. You are walking with a word, but no full blueprint. You are burning with vision, but not yet surrounded by support. This is what the prophets knew, what the psalmists cried through, what Jesus himself walked in. You are not abandoned. You are becoming. This is the season of your rooting, where God goes deep, pulling out old mindsets, healing hidden wounds, reinforcing your foundation, because he refuses to let you build your life on what can collapse later. The next level of your assignment is too weighty for weak structure. So he's strengthening you now. Yes, even through the discomfort. That's why isolation found you. That's why certain friendships faded. That's why your appetite for shallow things died. It wasn't rejection. It was redefinition. You are not being pushed out. You are being set apart, sanctified, prepared for a move of God that doesn't require mass approval, just deep alignment. And that kind of alignment cannot be borrowed. It must be lived. It must be walked. It must be tested in quiet places so that when the spotlight comes, your soul does not shake. That's what this moment is. Not punishment, not delay, but preparation. The first book of Peter, chapter 5, verse 10 promises that, "And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast." Chosen one. The suffering was not wasted. The isolation was not for nothing. The rejection had purpose. And the warfare was never about your destruction. It was about your formation. You are being made strong, firm, steadfast, not emotionally reactive, but spiritually anchored, not tossed by every voice, but locked into the frequency of heaven. This is the maturity of the chosen. This is the cost of the call, and you've already said yes. So hold steady. The backlash is temporary. The fire will not consume you. The confusion will not blind you. You're not going backward. You're just being rooted deeper, because what's coming next requires a strength that can't be shaken. Chosen one, you are still standing. And that fact alone is a threat to darkness. You've endured the pressure, weathered the isolation, faced the backlash, and resisted the subtle lure to retreat. And through it all, something in you refused to die. Something sacred, something holy, something eternal, the part of you that remembers. You were called before you were formed. You were chosen before anyone misunderstood you. You were marked before you ever bled. That truth has carried you even when nothing else made sense. There were days when your mind wanted to quit, but your spirit refused. When your emotions screamed for relief, but your soul held the line. There were moments when logic told you to walk away, but a whisper deeper than thought told you to stay planted. That whisper wasn't you. It was the breath of God sustaining what He started. Because what He started in you is not fragile, it is not accidental, it is not unstable. It is divine construction. You are being built stone by stone into a vessel fit for holy fire. You've mistaken this season for stillness. But in heaven's timeline, you've been accelerating. Not in visibility, but in weight. Not in numbers, but in depth. And now the foundation has taken root. And because of that, you're about to start feeling the pull to move not recklessly, not emotionally, but with intentional fire. You'll feel it in conversations where you can no longer pretend. You'll feel it when you walk into environments that once fed you but now irritate your spirit. You'll feel it when you try to go back to old habits and find they've lost their taste. You'll feel it when comfort no longer feels like home and obedience becomes your only resting place. This is the evidence that the old mantle has been lifted. God is calling you higher, not for performance, but for purity. Not to impress, but to intercede, not to gain influence, but to wield it with wisdom. This is not elevation for the sake of visibility. It's elevation for the sake of interruption. Because your presence, sanctified, surrendered, and set on fire, will interrupt hell's patterns. You are being sent as a disruptor. Not everyone will understand the shift. Some will mislabel your boundaries as pride. Others will accuse your silence of being cold. Some will try to bring you back into old roles, old spaces, old versions of yourself, not because they're evil, but because they don't see what heaven sees. But that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to obey the voice of God, no matter how quiet it comes, no matter how costly it feels. You're not walking alone, you're walking ahead. And that comes with weight. You're going to have to make decisions that look strange to others. You'll have to release what no longer fits, even if it once comforted you. You'll have to bless people who can't go with you without dragging them into a place they're not called to occupy. This is the maturity of the chosen. This is the fire of obedience, and it's burning brighter in you now than ever before. Heaven trusts you now with the kind of silence that precedes miracles, with the kind of stillness that precedes assignments, with the kind of clarity that costs you comfort but births spiritual territory. You are not just surviving anymore. You are walking in alignment. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3 declares that for the vision is yet for an appointed time, though it tarries, wait for it will surely come. It will not delay. Chosen one, that time is near. What felt delayed was never denied. What seemed slow was being secured in the spirit realm. What you thought was silence was a sacred strategy. Now the pieces are coming together. The words you once wrote in journals. The visions that never left your spirit. The dreams that felt too big to say out loud, they're being awakened. And this time, you will not abort the process. You will not surrender to fear. You will not shrink to be accepted. This time you will walk it out. Your steps will carry fire. Your words will carry weight. Your life will bear fruit that no platform can manufacture. Because what's coming through you wasn't born in performance. It was born in pain, pressed in private, refined in fire. And now, it's ready. Chosen one. Keep walking, not for applause, not for affirmation, but because the road is yours, marked, prepared, covered. And the next step, it's already a blessed chosen one. If you're still here, still listening, still receiving, then you are not just hearing a message, you are walking through a divine process. By now, something inside you has shifted. You don't feel the same because you aren't. Something in your posture, in your inner dialogue, in your spirit has changed. Heaven has been speaking to you across every word, every confirmation, every holy silence between the sentences. And you have responded not just with interest, but with surrender. That's the difference between spectators and remnants. Spectators are inspired for a moment. The remnant is transformed for a lifetime. You are the remnant. You are the one God knew would not scroll past, the one he saw standing in your room, phone in hand. His spirit was trembling, the one who, despite all the heaviness, refused to bow to fear. You are the one he chose to carry the next wave. And now there's no turning back. You've crossed a threshold and the enemy knows it. That's why it's gotten harder, not easier. That's why strange discouragement hits you even after breakthroughs. That's why you've had to battle with thoughts you thought you already defeated. You're not going backwards. You're being tested because every new level of obedience requires a deeper level of endurance. And you chosen ones are being prepared for longevity. This isn't about a moment of fire. This is about a lifetime of impact. And impact starts with a decision. The decision to guard what you've received. The decision to apply it when no one is watching. The decision to keep showing up for your destiny even when the feelings fade. Because this is not about emotion, it's about alignment. The Spirit of God doesn't just visit, he inhabits. He doesn't just touch, he transforms. But transformation requires continued yes. Not just once, but every day. When it's quiet, when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when you don't see results yet. So ask yourself right now, will I keep walking even if no one else joins me? Will I obey even when I feel nothing? Will I stay faithful even when I feel forgotten? If your answer is yes, if your heart is burning even now, then let heaven see your agreement. Comment, I will obey. Don't just feel it, say it, declare it. Let the spirit realm hear it. Let the angels who were assigned to war for you carry that confession back to the throne. Let it be recorded. You didn't just hear, you obeyed. You obeyed in private. You obeyed when no one clapped. You obeyed when it cost you. You obeyed when it stretched you. That's what marks a chosen one, not the fire they feel in the moment, but the faithfulness they walk in when no one sees. Obedience is your access point, your key, your weapon. It breaks the cycles that crushed your family. It silences the voices that once defined your identity. It unlocks the doors that effort alone could never open. You don't need to hustle for your breakthrough. You just need to align. You've already begun. And now, let's seal this moment. If you felt your spirit shift through this message like this video right now, not as a formality but as a prophetic act, you're saying, this is for me. I recognize the voice of the Lord in this. I will not let it pass me by. Every time you engage with truth, you reinforce it in your spirit. If you know someone who is walking through hidden warfare, share this with them. They don't need another distraction. They need deliverance. They need the clarity you just received. Be the one who passes the torch. Be the one who shines the light into someone else's darkness. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this space, not because of the content, because of the covering, because the anointing that's flowing here is not random, it's real, it's weighty, and it is going to continue to build you, equip you, and cover you. You weren't meant to walk alone, and this space is a lifeline for the marked ones. Stay connected to the flow. Don't let the fire die out once this moment ends. You've come too far. Heaven has invested too much. The angels have warred too hard. Your pain has been too sacred. This is your hour to stay rooted and keep moving. The Book of Joshua. Chapter 1, verse 9 reminds that, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Chosen one. God is not just with you when you feel him. He is with you even now. In the ordinary, in the silence after this message ends. In the mundane moments where you have to choose faith over feelings, that's where strength is forged. That's where fire remains. So type it in, faith comment. I will obey. Like, share, subscribe, and don't stop now because this journey, it's only just beginning. Chosen one, you're almost at the edge now. You've walked through fire, stood under pressure, and said yes in places where silence would have been easier. Every part of this journey, every whispered prayer, every tear, every quiet surrender has been preparation. And now you are standing at the threshold of something irreversible. There's a shift happening around you that most people can't see. It's not loud. It doesn't come with flashes of lightning or visible signs, but in the spirit, it is seismic. The old structures are crumbling. The old limitations are being lifted. What held you back before no longer has legal access. What silenced you before no longer has weight. And yet this moment demands something deeper than reaction. It demands resolve. Because this is close to crossing over the test changes. It's no longer about surviving. It's about holding the line. You're being asked to stand in full authority now, not with pride, but with certainty, not to prove anything, but to protect what's been planted. The enemy isn't attacking you the same way anymore. He's not trying to tempt you into obvious sin. He's trying to convince you to settle to plateau, to ease up just enough that you lose momentum. He'll whisper things like, "You've done enough. You're not responsible for all this. Someone else will rise up." But you've heard this before, haven't you? And this time you recognize it for what it is. Spiritual exhaustion dressed up as logic. Chosen one. Let this settle in your spirit. You were born to finish what others feared to start. There's a reason you've never fit. A reason your convictions have always run deeper. A reason you can't sit in silence when something spiritual is out of alignment. It's because God designed you with a sensitivity that others misinterpret, but heaven relies on. That sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a weapon. Your discernment is how heaven navigates dark places. Your voice is how light enters locked rooms. Your presence yielded and surrendered disrupts. You don't even have to try. You just walk in and the atmosphere shifts, not because of you, but because of who you carry. And right now, that presence is growing stronger. You may not feel different. You may still have questions. You may still feel the sting of people who don't see the real you. But the weight you're carrying proves that something eternal is unfolding. You are not here by accident. And this moment, this final stretch is not about convenience. It's about consecration. Consecration isn't glamorous. It won't always feel good. It often looks like being hidden, like being passed over, like praying for others, while your own prayers feel unanswered. But that's because consecration isn't about what you get. It's about who you become. And your chosen one is becoming unshakable. The book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 27 describes that the removal of what can be shaken creates things so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Everything in your life that could be shaken has been relationships, belief systems, self-worth, even your understanding of God. But what remains? Faith, fire, obedience, identity. These are not temporary flames. They are eternal pillars, and they are strong now because they've been tested. This is the part of the journey that most never reach. They bow to the tiredness. It provokes angelic movement. There's a way to your presence now. A stillness that cannot be faked. A confidence that has been earned not through pride but through process. And the most beautiful part, you didn't rush it. You let God work. You let Him peel away layers, cleanse old agreements, strip off false identities, and rebuild what was broken. You bled honestly. You prayed even when the heavens seemed silent. You obeyed without reward. And now comes the reward. No one else can give you peace, stability, clarity, authority. The book of Psalms, chapter 1, verse 3, illustrates that they are like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. That is who you are becoming. Not a wildfire that burns bright and disappears, but a planted tree rooted unmovable, drawing from living waters, producing fruit not just in moments of intensity, but in every season. This is what scares the enemy most. Not just your ability to start, but your willingness to remain. You're not running anymore. You're not striving. You're not negotiating with your identity. You've received it. You've walked it. And now you wear it not loudly, but undeniably. Your voice doesn't need to shout to carry weight. Your presence doesn't need attention to carry fire. You are aligned, you are stable, and you are ready. The fire that once exposed your weakness has now revealed your core strength. The silence that once made you question your worth has become the womb of your wisdom. The tests you thought would kill you became the tools that shaped your mantle. So now, as you walk forward, understand this. You no longer walk as someone trying to prove their call. You walk as someone sealed by it. No more shrinking, no more second-guessing, no more revisiting dead seasons to look for closure. What God has brought you through is enough. What He's placed in your spirit is sufficient, and what lies ahead is already covered. You've become the very thing hell tried to stop. You've become the living proof that grace is greater than shame. You've become the evidence that broken vessels still carry oil. You've become the sound of heaven in human form. And from this moment forward, your life will not go back to what it was. Not spiritually, not emotionally, not in posture or purpose. You've crossed over, and your footsteps are now part of divine history. Heaven has seen, hell has lost. And you chosen one have risen, chosen one. If you're still here reading these very words, understand this: you didn't just scroll through a post. You just finished a divine appointment. This wasn't content. This was consecration. This was holy ground disguised as text on a screen. Every paragraph you just walked through was a threshing floor. Every sentence was a hammer and fire. Layer by layer, something was stripped away. Chain by chain, something was shattered. Veil by veil, something sacred inside you was uncovered, awakened, and set ablaze. Right now, in this moment, you are not standing as someone who simply consumed a message. You are standing as a living carrier of God's glory, freshly branded by the Spirit, sealed with purpose that hell itself cannot erase. Heaven just took notice. The courts of glory just went silent for a second as your spirit rose and said, "Yes, Lord." The angels assigned to you didn't just watch. They wrote it down in the eternal records. Your agreement, your surrender, your quiet tears, your trembling, I receive it. Everything was documented. That, yes, you whispered in your heart, just shifted atmospheres. It just redrew battle lines. I just rewrote it tomorrow. You are no longer walking as the one who needed to be rescued. You are now walking as the one who has been recommissioned, remantled, and released with fresh fire straight from the throne room. The old version of you that kept begging to be saved, that version just died back there somewhere between the lines. A new creation stepped out on the other side of this message. Eyes blazing, heart-aligned, spirit roaring. But listen closely. Do not, I repeat, do not keep this moment to yourself. Hit that like button right now. Not for me, not for algorithms. Do it as an act of warfare. Do it as a public declaration that the enemy's trap has been exposed and destroyed in your life tonight. Do it to seal this encounter so that when the enemy comes back whispering lies tomorrow, you can point to this moment and say, "No, devil, it's already settled." If the Spirit of God met you anywhere in this journey, if one line wrecked you, if one truth pierced you, if one memory surfaced and broke you, if tears fell without warning, if sudden boldness rose up inside your chest, then share this message immediately. Share it like you're throwing a rope to someone drowning. There's someone in your contacts right now who's fighting in silence. Someone whose faith is hanging by a thread. Someone who's one bad decision away from giving up completely. They don't need another cute quote. They need exactly what you just received. What sets you free might be the very word that pulls them back from the edge. Be the deliverer. Be the messenger. Be the one who carries the torch into their darkness. And if you haven't already subscribed, turn on notifications, stay locked in. This isn't about building a following. This space was birthed as a war room for the remnant, a burning bush for the faithful, a prophetic trumpet for the chosen ones who still dare to believe God in a generation that's forgotten how. This is your tribe. This is your oxygen. This is where heaven keeps pouring fresh oil so you don't burn out before your assignment is complete. Stay close. Stay plugged in. Stay under the spout where the glory keeps coming out. Finally, drop a comment below right now. Just one thing, one word, one phrase, one whisper. The Holy Spirit breathed into your spirit while you were reading. Let it be your testimony. Let it be your battle cry. Let it be the flag you plant in the spirit realm, declaring, "I was here. I was changed. I am His." Because the truth is, you're not the same person who started reading this. Something shifted permanently. The old ceiling just became your new floor. You've been marked with fire. You've been upgraded in secret. You've been terrifyingly, beautifully, irrevocably transformed.